right, we made it through another week of the Trash Cast. Your host Matthias, along with the boys.
John.
And Will.
How have you guys been doing?
Good. It's actually painting Cursed City as we speak.
Doing the same. We have been in a fortunate position where both of us were able to secure a copy of that elusive box. So we have been basically splitting down the middle the work that we need to do for our group, which is going to result in having a first session that has way more painted stuff than it otherwise would. So, yeah.
Well, lucky you guys. I was unfortunately not
Right?
able to get that, but I think we went over that last week. And
Yeah, we
speaking
might
of
have a
Curse
little more
City,
to say
it'll
about
be speaking of Curse City, there'll be more news on that later. But let's jump in, shall we? Starting with our first bit of news, which is pre-orders being delayed. As in, they're not announcing anything really new to pre-order till the basically May. May. Kind of sucks, honestly. Seeing how it's gonna be, Belcor is was the last one you got to pre-order, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Belacor and the Broken Realms.
And you had to be like a secret agent to get Bellicor in the pre-order. I think John, you were able to secure one, but
I
that
think
is
yeah, he lasted longer than Cursed City for sure. But yeah, he if you did get him Saturday, you're SOL unless you go to a store to grab one.
it's
Yeah.
funny how Games Workshop has changed, and our expectations for it have also changed. Like I was listening to something sort of an old head talking about Warhammer Fantasy in like the early 2000s, where it'd be like a year and a half before anything for that game system would come out, and it would just be like, oh, here it is. It's in a white dwarf. Suddenly, dark elves exist. Oh, and I think for the last 5 years, I want to say, Games Workshop has tried to release something every week.
Or at least
And
announce.
I think pre-COVID they've done that flawlessly. At least when I got back into it in like 2017, 2016, like something came out every week, which is bananas. So I guess in this topic of pre-orders, like Star Wars Legion, like you have a release once a month, if at that, maybe once every other month. War Machine gets a release once a month ish. Uh, Bolt Action gets a release once a month, you know. And then Warhammer is like, oh no, guys, sorry, we can't do weekly anymore. We're gonna have to be like the rest of the industry.
Now, the other foot of that shoe, which is not an expression, and so hopefully
What's that?
editing will take that out. But the other side to that is Games Workshop has also built that expectation for its customers.
Yes.
We expect them to do something every week. Even I mean, the smallest releases I can recall were the littlest release I've ever seen from Games Workshop was a single Black Library Horus Heresy novel that came out. It was just after Eighth Edition dropped. There was a Perturabo Primarchs novel that came out. It was the only thing that was on pre-order. It's the smallest order I've ever seen from them. And now here we are. I think the second time in this year where we have no pre-orders for more than 1 week. It's kind of funny because this announcement, I almost wonder like if they shouldn't have tried to set the expectation that this was likely to happen months and months and months ago.
I think they did. There was a point where we were getting pre-order every 2 weeks, and then suddenly it got back without announcement. It came back to once a week again, and then here we are.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, evidently that wasn't working.
you got all the. Unfortunately, you got HQ dealing with all the problems right now, right? You got the Brexit situation, you got the COVID situation.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff that's hindering it. But at least they announced that they're still going to be announcing stuff. We'll just have to wait a bit longer to see when all this stuff is going to be out. So pretty much just like a Saturday preview kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean we got a model kit, a giant model kit actually spoiled for that, and then a couple of little things, which ever since I said, a month ago, yep, new model Monday's over, they just continually stick it to me. They're
Yeah.
just like, shut up, Will, you're wrong.
Well, we knew they were gonna continue New Model Monday throughout this month, but it was all just gonna be AOS theme, is what they said. Which they could have just stuck with New Model Monday, but I'm not on their marketing team, so what do I know? But but yeah, so no pre-orders for how many weeks are left in April? 2?
But yeah, I believe we have 2 weeks with no pre-orders.
So no
It
pre-orders
is
this week and no pre-orders the week after.
it's tough for the people who know there's something around the corner that they want. I think those are the people who are probably going to be the most affected and annoyed and hype dampened by this. Like if you know your codex or your army release is just around the corner, um, you have to kind of salivate for it even longer. And I mean, like 2 weeks, ideally, most hobbyists will survive that 2 weeks. Like they're not, 105 years old, and like it's not just, the clock is not ticking to actually, get a new Mechanicus codex. But it is a bummer if you know something is coming out for you.
Well, funny
Yeah,
you
I think
mentioned that.
yeah, Mechanicus is the codex that's immediately being waited for.
Yep, that's getting delayed. I
I
think.
think. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I thought they were gonna be doing Mechanicus in April, but
Well, yeah, not anymore.
not anymore. So that's
I
unfortunately.
it just feels brutal because a lot of the how do I rank this? Like a lot of the stuff that's out, like codexes, AOS armies, underworlds, Warcry, like a lot of it, the recent stuff is way higher in quality than stuff that that's like playable. Like I guess what I was saying is that like codexes, right? Like the current codexes, you could, regardless of they're better or not. I mean, Sisters is still destroying people. Same with Harlequins, but overall, the new codexes are just more interesting and playable compared to the old ones. And it sucks to have to wait longer. Like, like this delay is gonna mean like me not caring about my Mechanicus or Chaos Marines because they have old codexes, and it's like, well, yeah, I could play, but like the gap of interesting gameplay is so wide compared to the current codexes like Dark Eldar or Space Marines or even Necrons. Like it's just way more fun to play those than especially when you look at the old codexes. And it's the same for something like like Kill Team. Like me and our gaming group talking about Kill Team, and the rules are just so old. Especially because Warcry just came out not too long ago with like an update for every army, and it's super fun. And if you're a Kill Team fan and you're waiting for second edition, well, this is just gonna push it even longer. Same for AOS. If you're a Deepkin player, I'm playing Soulblight. I gotta wait longer until my army comes out, right?
Right. And that's a pretty Soulblight. I mean, is I think an extreme example of that too, because not only is it a new book, it's like a gigantic, outrageous, comprehensive re-release, like remastering of the vampire counts, uh, like everything. It's crazy. I mean, I think there's like 6 kits being redone. We at the moment, there's only a few things that we know are new, but it's a crazy huge release. You know it exists, and you're this much farther from getting it.
Right.
Well, you know what this means though.
Mm.
It means 10th edition is even further out than before, so we're gonna enjoy 9th a lot more.
Which is fine if all the
And
codex
it means and it means your redemptionists are even farther away than before.
Yeah, well, I can sleep on that for right. It's okay.
It helps me to sleep to know that you're being inconvenienced. Their fire hats will just have to be something in your imagination until the glorious 3Ds come out.
Actually, jokes aside, like an example is so Bellacore. we have no indication that Be'lakor is getting full 40k rules with this launch. That's kind of ridiculous, in my opinion.
Isn't he getting them in his instruction sheet?
Just the stats for his weapons and his profile. Special rules do not exist.
Presumably, they're waiting until the Chaos Demon. Probably what would I imagine happened. If I had to guess, the Chaos Demon Codex was originally supposed to come out around when Broken Realms Be'lakor was going to come out for Age of Sigmar, and schedule changes made that not possible.
Yeah, and this just exacerbates that.
Well, they get to play with the old
and
rules for Be'lakor.
also because of one of the other reveals today, which I'm sure we'll talk about. There's yet another demon thing that probably should be in the new Chaos Demon Codex whenever that happens.
Hopefully. Like you said, we'll get to it when we get to it, but yeah, hopefully they'll get in there. For 40k.
For me, even all of that being said, of like the inconvenience and the fact that it sort of affects the hype and can be frustrating, um, at least here, like I can understand the circumstances, like of why they would do this, and if it results, if taking a 2-week sort of recalibration and refresher is going to help them to prevent some of the issues they've had recently, I think it will be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good break, I guess.
I just find it funny that people are saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna quit Warhammer and go to companies who actually release stuff for their fans." It's like, yeah, this is normal.
Yeah, I got to keep it in perspective.
Yeah, well,
Good
we
point.
can get to the fan complaints in the last section. But
I do say though, I love that artwork of the Nurgling holding the Warhammer box. It did a great job with that.
the foreshadowing of what COVID did, ruining the hobby. Can't believe it.
Nurgling's taking the hobby. Joke's on you, Also, hashtag Nurglings making Games Workshop bigger than it's ever been.
True.
With everyone stuck inside.
More time to paint the armies.
That's true.
Well, I think we can move on to our next story, which is we got a new Ork model for the what is it called, the beast snaggas.
You got it.
So, rumor is that there might be a new line of boys coming along with this as well.
Let me know when it's hot take time.
All right, well, let's get your hot take.
Our hot take, as people who know John hates orcs in 40k. I think orcs are the most useless faction thematically in Warhammer 40,000 at the moment. They have no place and are a meme. That said, this is an amazing model, and I hope that this is the path of redemption the orcs will get to make them cool in my eyes. Because this is dope. This is really cool.
It's so appropriate. It's so well done, and it's so grungy and low tech that it starts to make more sense. Like, this is not the orcs having not gone to the chiropractor and being bent over and having just stupid cartoon bubble butt proportions. Like, this is a great looking greenskin.
Like, if these are the new boys, I'm gonna be like, dang, maybe the orc switch is finally gonna get turned on.
I mean, this is definitely a knob. But yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, if he's a knob, that's cool too. But just the fact that it's an orc sculpt made with fidelity that was not 16 years old or whatever, like, it's really incredible. And like, we know from the more recent greenskin releases with things like the Age of Sigmar stuff, and then with the few orc models that have come out in 40k in the last couple of years, like, they can do better, but orc boys need to look good. There is no kit in the orc range that needs to work and needs to look better than their core infantry.
Yep.
This is a killer model, and the thing is, like, even as somebody, John brought up, like, John hates orcs. Everybody who knows John knows this, but anyone could be happier with other models looking good if that's something you have to face across the table. Like having to fight orcs from the 1940s kills my soul, but if I have to fight orcs that like look cool like this, okay, that's all right.
Yeah, well, it's a nice redesign, even if it is just like a what would the term be? Special unit.
Right.
It'd be cool to have I mean, it'll suck because obviously the price would go up, but the multi-kit boys if they were resculpted and all that.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind them being like Necron Warrior push fit, but cheaper. I mean, it's a bad example because the Necron Warrior kit exists to sell the bigger kits, but realistically, that kit would be like you know $40 for 20 would make sense for like a push fit, and I would be fine with that. I think actually as a tier, I guess I'm still a tier player because I haven't sold my army. Like having gaunts that are like HD but like just mono pose because they're gaunts. You don't need to freaking like have tactically cool posed gaunts. Um, but if you had something like that was just a like 20 of them for like $40, and they were just like mono pose like push fit, I'm fine with that. And it kind of makes it easier to just get a bunch of them. Same for these orc boys if they were mono pose, but you got a lot for your money. No, not complaining.
Sure. I mean, the Black Reach boys from that 5th edition starter set were incredibly popular, and they're still all over circulation in the aftermarket. I think the thing is, like with Orc boys, a big part of it is not like that the designs of the current miniatures are bad designs. They're just really old. Like they're just so it's so obvious that like times have changed and sort of left these models behind, but they are still the backbone of anybody who wants to play this faction. Like it really is vital. And the way that it is for a lot of craft world stuff in particular, as we've talked about before, like striking scorpions are so resin. Like they look old, and it's not that like
Crush my soul
artistically
when you
those
say that, Will.
not it's not that they were bad models, when the original metal models, came out. They weren't bad then, but it's Games Workshop has come so far. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the schedule, right? Games Workshop set higher expectations, and now it's imperative that they, you know, continue to meet them and exceed them. Like this is a great looking orc model, and I hope this is representative of more stuff to come. This is really good. And dear listeners, if it made John feel positively about a space orc, this is like
That means it's good
this,
because I hate orcs.
yeah.
Yeah, well, if they did go the push the push the fit route, I don't think many people would complain because orcs are one of those armies that are like the most converted armies out there in
Right.
terms of what they do because they're just like yeah, I just put a bunch of junk in this guy's hand and then there you go, that's a shooter right there.
I think ideally, and this is an alternate opinion on that. I think the best thing that could happen for orcs would be to have a push fit orc boy box, and then also a multi kit in the way the Chaos Space Marines work with Shadow Spear. Like I can definitely see this being like the Beast Snagas being on one side of a new sort of 2-player box game, because orcs are one of the because they're so heavily converted, as you say, Matt. Like orc players value their bits more than almost anybody values their bits, particularly Warhammer 40,000 orc players. So they gotta have alternate weapons at the very least, and bits and bobs and grenades to stick on their butts.
True.
But yeah, I mean, also to go back to the example of Tyranids, who also have incredibly old trooper miniatures that have I would argue. I don't know how you feel about this, John. I would argue they have largely stood the test of time because they're so alien.
Yeah, and they work. They're not goofy. You know, like
Yeah.
Hormagaunts are Hormagaunts at the end of the day.
The only things about them that have sort of are really evidence of their carbon dating is their tails. The tails of Hormagaunts and Termagants only go in one direction. That's just because of when they came out. it would be awesome to have new ones, but compared to something like Eldar Guardians or like Space Marine Scouts, there's no contest.
Hmm. Well, maybe they'll be getting something as well. I mean, we haven't seen any news of Tyranids at all, so could be getting something big too.
Gonna be new rules, a lictor, and then that's it for the next 10 years.
More Gene Stealer cults, hopefully.
No, they're done.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see about
I,
them.
the rumor engine would like to disagree with you with the Gene Stealer cult hand. But
The rumor
also I
engine-
just think Gene Stealer cults are cool.
they're super cool.
Great looking models.
Yeah,
So expensive. So hard to collect. So hard to paint.
Great for Necro. Actually, amazing for Necro.
Yeah.
Damn amazing.
Super awesome for that. But yes, more Gene Stealer cults until the sun explodes.
Well then, I think we're done with the beast snaggers and the future of the 40k orcs, I would say, right?
Mhm.
Do we move on to the new model Monday, even though we looked at a new model already?
This is how we're gonna fight 3D printers model.
Yeah. We got the Slaneshi
like built-in
Demon.
DRM.
Yeah, what is this? Dexessa, Talon, and Slanesh, and
Sinessa.
Sinessa.
So, Sinessa is a great name. Dexessa is very difficult for me to say. There's too many consonants. Damn you, Slanesh.
Don't you help kids like read words, which makes it even weirder?
That is true. Looking at Dexessa, like Dexessa, like that's a lot of hard x sounds in there. Like, come on, like these demons just forcing us to say made up words.
Well,
Sinessa is also just cooler than the other one.
I would agree on that one. Just pose wise, I like the wings to the side, then the peacock look.
Yeah.
But
Jokes
both
aside,
are
this
both
is
great.
a shocking reveal.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see this. Though. So what are these? These are greater demons, right? Or are they just like a league of their own?
So,
They're Slaanesh, right? Apparently, or something. You know more.
yeah. So they're keeper of secrets, more or less. They are basically what we're seeing here is like a different like class of keeper of secret. So because in the Age of Sigmar lore, and I'm sure 40k will figure out a way to put them into, like Slanesh has been sort of like returning to power due to Marathi being incredibly short-sighted, and the newborn, which is this like new manifestation of Slanesh's power, like these are like the result of that happening. It's a multi-kit that builds either twin, which is interesting because even though you can tell on a lot of places that it's a multi-kit, there are a lot of things that are completely different. Like if you notice on the twin who has the non-peacock twin, her left leg has this like gilded like armor covering on it, right? In a
Mhm.
multi-kit, I would expect that to be the same on the other one, but it's not there.
It's not. I didn't even notice that.
It's kind of crazy. Their leg positions are even different, like only slightly, like only because of like the position of the medallion. But it really does a good job of giving the illusion that these are not a multi-kit. It's really cool, and this is totally a surprise. I mean, a greater demon getting another class of greater demon. This would be like if they came out with like, I don't know, like a bloodthirster that had, like two swords or something. It's weird, right?
It is weird, and I guess I shouldn't really be surprised that Slanesh is getting more stuff, seeing or hearing what's happening in AOS. But I really thought like Korn would be getting some love this time around.
I think the schedule is just all messed up because of COVID. Like I think Slaanesh was supposed to come out last year, and this is gonna be like a random release or something.
Yeah.
But
I would expect these and Croak to feature in the Broken Realms releases, just because that seems to be the way that Games Workshop has wanted to go forward with all this AOS stuff. For 40K, I would imagine they will wait until these models are out to do the Chaos Demon book, whenever that is going to be, so they can throw these and Be'lakor into that book.
Yeah.
that would make sense.
Because aside from the obvious example of the demon Primarchs in 40K, I don't think there are any demons that aren't in both games. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right.
Yeah, they
I
kind
think
of
they'd
just
be
dump
consistent
everything
with
in.
Yeah, I would be shocked if they did not make this an opportunity for 40K demon players to get their hands on these.
Well, you gotta sell to both markets, right?
Ruinstorm.
Yeah, it makes sense. Ruinstorm. Our 30K champion over there being like, yes, hashtag 30K things. It's a demon.
But yeah, this is a
Um,
impressive model. I don't think it's as impressive as, oops, as what they showed last week, which is Lord Croak. But this week and last week are definitely knockout models to be showcasing.
yeah. This is, and also as you were saying, John, the war on 3D printers continues with this.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, 3D. If you look at most 3D printed Warhammer like models, they're usually like Space Marines, usually tanks, robots, dreadnoughts. Now, I'm not saying like you can't 3D print a Void Dragon because people have, but it's definitely not something you can just plug and play.
Right.
I think this model is going to be like that, where you definitely cannot just plug and play this and be like, oh, you're like,
You definitely need to be a skilled engineer to pull something off like this with your 3D printer, of course. And even then, it probably wouldn't look as good as this.
Yeah. I mean, Games Workshop themselves uses a great deal of 3D like sculpting technology, as like their designers who have blogs and stuff have mentioned before. Like they even 3D print prototype things. But this, it's just like yet another kit that's just flexing on everybody else who makes miniatures on Earth. Of
yeah.
just like lest you never forget that we are we are the best at this, because we've dedicated everything at great expense to maybe everything else about Games Workshop to making really cool models.
Yeah, well, I mean, with quality like this, go ahead and take a 2-week break from your release schedule. It's fine.
Yeah. These are really awesome, and they did a good job, and it's just also a cool design space of like having more greater demons that are like sort of the same species as other ones, but like we already technically have a Keeper of Secret Hero with Shalaxi, who's the alternate you can build from the regular Keeper of Secrets kit. So this is really cool that there's more variety like that.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
hopefully the other uh, Chaos Gods start getting some more love a little bit here.
Glock can exist, right?
Hmm.
So, Nurgle is good. Yeah, I would love to see more Corn stuff. Although
Right.
honestly, I'd rather see just redone bloodletters rather than like more stuff here. So that's just me though.
You read you read my mind. That I think is like a lot of the Corn stuff. Corn is sort of paid the price model wise for being the first of the demons to get really redone back in the mid aughts. And those early demon models, particularly the bloodletters, I think really suffer from having been designed with Warhammer Fantasy in mind. Purely because of the regiment nature of that game. Bloodletters, they could be in 40K and they could be on circles and loose formations, but they also had to rank up. And for demonic, head cutting off soldiers, uh, they are a little more restrained than you would think.
Hmm.
We just know they can do better. Who knows? Might come someday.
Hopefully. It'll be nice to see when the other guys get the love they need. Mainly looking at corn first, and then, of course, when I'm talking about it, I'm speaking from a 40K perspective, because I know AOS gets like all the cool stuff when everything gets remodeled.
Mhm. And I mean the Bloodletter miniatures are 2008, the ones that we have right now, so they're not not nearly as old as something like the plastic Chaos Space Marines, which got gloriously redone a couple years ago. But it'll probably happen in our lifetimes.
I have no doubt. I'm sure it'll happen in the next couple of years. If anything.
One can hope.
That's all we have is hope.
There was another new model that was revealed since we last did our podcast. I think, John, you just linked it in the chat.
Yeah, I totally forgot. It wasn't on the schedule, but the new Maloghurst model for Heresy.
It's scheduling some.
Yeah.
Okay, I pulled it up. This guy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Got a nice Eye of Horus, I see.
So this is a special character from, I believe, book 2 of the Horus Heresy, which was released in 2015, 16.
I think it's older than that. If you're talking about book 2,
Yeah, book 2 is like 2014, or between 2014 and 2016.
that's Extinction, right? Or Massacre.
Massacre. No, it's I'm looking at my shelf. Yeah, it's Massacre.
That's awesome. I was Googling it. John was like, let me look at my shelf of black books. I found out. Yeah, it's 2013.
There you go.
Is when that book came out. So he's 8 years late
never mind.
to
There
the
we go.
thing
Yep.
he came with.
Now, this is cool. I think this. Okay, the fact that this is coming out, it's a good thing. Like, one, Horus Heresy is getting stuff, and like I can stop complaining every podcast, right? You know.
I was gonna say, it's about time. Look at that. John has something to talk about again.
Yeah. It's a character from the books, which is always a plus. You know, it's not some random loser that they invented. So I think it's a good thing. A lot of people are saying he looks too 40K, but I mean, I played Horus Heresy since launch. I've read like a lot of the books. I have Visions of Heresy. This is totally fine. This like actually, I was gonna bring an issue. Someone pointed out. I spoke to Will about this. People complain that like, oh, dude, Heresy, like Horus Heresy models look too 40K. Oh, you can't use you can't do this conversion because it's too 40K. Or like, demons are too 40K and you're worth. It's like, here's the thing. I realized, Horus Heresy, all the models released for the Horus Heresy game are all like late Great Crusade, early Horus Heresy models. But that doesn't mean it's all the Heresy is, right? The example I used was like, imagine you had a World War II game like Flames of War and Bolt Action that just came out, right? And all the models released were like before America joined the war. So like, you know, like Poland, France, early Russia, obviously Germany is there. And then like someone's like, oh, I want to play Americans, and people are like, oh, dude, that's not World War II. That's too modern. that's the equivalent of people saying, oh, this guy's 240K. It's like, no, this guy was in the Heresy. It's just that all the stuff that's come out is like early on in the war. But it's a long war if you look at the lore, you know, pun aside. Like in the No Fear novel where the word bearers attack the Ultramarines for the first time, there's straight up Chaos Marine models there, like with the horns and like the flayed skin and like the like the long elongated backpacks. Like they're there, you know. They had possessed Marines. They were fighting demons then. They had demon engines, you know. They had demon engines in Terra. Like that's part of the heresy, and I think there's this kind of like gatekeeping of like, oh, it's 240K. Like, oh, you gotta be like more clean armor. It's like, no, that's you're just people are just assuming. So, like, listeners, if you want to play Horus Heresy and you want to use Chaos Marines, like, go for it. I mean, obviously, it's a quote unquote historical game, right? So you can't just have Tau or like your or Death Watch or something. It has to fit on the timeline. But I think the timeline and the models you could use are more flexible than people think. Like, it's not just all Mark II, Mark III, Istvan 3 stuff. Like, yeah, you could use Mark 7 Imperial Fists for Terra. You could use Possessed Marines for your Sons of, because it makes sense they would have that. Why not? It's a big war, right?
I think what you're saying is really very true. And the other thing is, because I know, John, you you did some digging into the social media around this model, and that you saw that it was fairly divisive.
Yes.
It's funny to me that happened, because if you look at the Sons of Horus Reaver attack squad, which is like, one of the early Horus Heresy special units, they look like Maloghurst. Like, they have spikes on them. They have chain axes and like eyes of Horus everywhere and claws, and like, it's just
one of my favorite like counter comments, people saying like these, like people saying, oh, he looks like a Chaos Space Marine. Donnie was like, where do you think Chaos Marines came from?
That's true. I mean,
were
he
they
was,
before they were Chaos Marines?
had he been a character who was also in Warhammer 40,000, he would be a Chaos Space Marine. That's what everybody who survived on the trader side ended up becoming that. So it's a little funny. It's like, yeah, Komodo dragons are cool, but dinosaurs, that's the real reptiles. Like, okay, man. So like, evolution happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Komodo dragon came from somewhere.
Yeah.
You fool.
So like, rants aside, like, this is cool. I mean, I wish I was the con. I'm waiting for the con. I wish, the release schedule was not as slow. I mean, again, like, this is like, regardless if me and will like this model, like, I'm assuming we'll like this model. It's still an 8-year-old model when the rules, ever since its rules came out with no changes. Like, there's still a lot of new stuff that just needs to come out. So yeah, man, it's still kind of lame, but at the same time, it's like, okay, we're going somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, this model is really well done, and like, obviously is like well sculpted and represents the character very well, but arbitrarily, I'm just gonna have to say it's 240k, and thus I'm gonna dislike it for that reason alone. And just, probably just gonna, keep playing with this Twinkie bar that I wrote Maloghurst on. That's my hobby, listeners. If you didn't know, I typically don't actually buy and paint models. I just pretend to do that.
You only play in this Fun 3 campaigns.
That's true, by myself. And I do voices for all the Bolter rounds and everything. Thankfully, nobody records those. Otherwise, I would never get a job.
All I got from this conversation was John's gatekeeping me from playing 30k because he won't let me play my Tau. That's all I know.
That must be it.
Bacteria do not have rules.
We're literally not even fish yet.
Yeah, were they? I think they were like single-celled organisms, right, or something? Or were they like savanna people? I forgot.
Yeah. They were like
primitive.
They were like slugs. Yeah, primitive fish beings. Also, I like how this Maloghurst model has the Chthonian like boatman coins on his banner, which is a pretty obscure detail that somebody from Forge World remembered.
That's true. That's true.
So good job, Forge World. You did it this time.
Doing us
See you next time.
One
still resonant.
I don't think this is a plastic. Yep. I don't think it was a plastic model. It looks painted like heavy metal, but Sol Tarbitz was also painted this style, and he is resin. No hope.
They also might have a little more time to spread their really quality painters around, because the releases have been a little more limited. And as also evidence from the last Forge World release we talked about, those Dwarf Kings from Lord of the Rings, those are definitely not painted by heavy metal and are equally resin. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good looking model.
Well, I didn't have much to say on this one because I don't know much about 30k.
It's not a Tau.
It's not a Tau either.
It's not a Tau. And John is gatekeeping you.
Yeah, that's...
Forge World is also doing this.
I can't believe them.
They released.
But we can move on to the next topic. which is good old Cursed City again. So, I want to bring up a tweet that we got that everyone's reacting to right now, which is saying that Cursed City is sold out from the Games Workshop store and they're not expecting it to return online, meaning they're not planning on selling it again, is what everyone is exclaiming. So, John said there was possibly good news here.
Before going to the deep dive, there's also Facebook comments saying that it will come back. So this is a classic case of like, the social media team or whoever's running these not talking to each other.
Yeah.
One outlet said it's out, and the other outlet said it's coming back.
Yeah, this is a case I think pretty clearly of if Games Workshop is able to make more of this box, they will. There's no universe where a company like Games Workshop that can sell something that people are clearly interested in wouldn't try to sell more of it. Like the big thing going around is that like this is like a case of controlled FOMO. Not for a box like this. There's just no way. I don't think Games Workshop is clever enough as an evil empire to even engineer that if they wanted to. Like they would otherwise things like Speed Freaks would be limited release. Like which was a terrible Ork box like 2 years ago. The thing that is difficult about it, and you brought up Matt, that tweet that's going all over the place. They tweeted different things. They made different posts on their social media. They had to delete old posts. I think that's a case of just like they don't want to send even more mixed messages because if a previous post says this thing will stay and a new customer or someone who isn't in the know sees that, they're going to be very confused by a later post that says actually we don't know when or if this is ever coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just kind of putting out fires. It doesn't make it any more professional. Like there's definitely a ball that's being dropped here. We just don't know at this point why.
Well, I just remember just seeing this on like every Warhammer channel that I watch, just talking about this specific tweet right here. It was just interesting to see how that flame is just spreading super fast around the community.
Yeah, even for channels that don't care about Warhammer, like Age of Sigmar or Cursed City in particular, like are just it is definitely something people have very strong feelings about.
It's a very hot topic right
Fairly
now.
so.
Fairly so, because it's funny. So a channel that I really like is Gorilla Miniatures Games, who's the guy who operates that channel. Ash worked for Games Workshop for a really, really, really long time. And what he said about it, sort of tongue in cheek, was like, there are ways to get Cursed City if you want it, and not just in terms of scalping. Like there are still stores all over the place, at least in North America, and I'm sure in Europe too. There's still places that have it. You may have to drive further to go get it. Like you may have to call everybody in the Games Workshop Rolodex, but like it's not. It's not like it's a better example. What's like one of the hardest to find things? It's like those like collector's editions.
Indominus was pretty hard to get when it first came out.
Yeah, that was also effectively an edition launch too because it had the new rulebook in there. So there were people who had an interest in at least part of that box who didn't want either of the armies. Like scalping aside, because scalping obviously is super lame. And maybe one of the issues this time is that Games Workshop didn't have proper scalper defense, which is very possible. I don't think Cursed City was limited to one per order.
Nope.
That's probably an error.
I think the issue too is like that none of the and we touched about this is none of the Warhammer Quest games have sold out instant.
Yeah.
Like this was still seen as far as I know, was seen as a risk, despite the positive fan internet what's it called, like internet reception to the launch, or not launch, like the announcement, like the past data suggested that this might not succeed, you know, because the others didn't succeed in terms of just like blowing sails out of the water.
Yeah,
So I don't
they,
think
they
it
definitely didn't
like
succeed
that.
to this degree.
Yeah. Um, but no, like Will's right. Like, if you really want it, you could find it. Like I found Legion Staps when they were sold out. I found an ATST, and they're still sold out. And I found one at like a discount at some store. Because I just looked. It took a while. I had to look for a long time, but I found one. So it is definitely possible if you really want this kit to find it and not have to pay scalper prices.
The other side of it, though, even saying that, like it is annoying for people who have an interest in the game, or for people who are only discovering it too late. People who didn't know about it on the first 2 weeks the week that it was pre-orderable, which you really had to be in the know and you really had to be ready to get that pre-order secured, or who just happened to you know get lucky like I did, and I got in line early enough to get a copy. I think, as you recall, I recall you saying, Matt, you got in line too and didn't get one.
Correct. I did not get it.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
Nothing we've said doesn't make that not suck.
Yeah, but I mean, in my mind, right? Like I knew it was gonna be back in stock. When, I don't know, right? But then when you see like this message just flying around the entire internet, right? Where they're like, don't have any plans to ever put it back online. It's kind of like, oh, is that like, that sucks, really?
Now,
Because now I can't get it.
speaking from a business standpoint, a game design standpoint, miniatures game company standpoint, not just Games Workshop, but like FFG or like Warlord, like I don't think, like, if this is all they sell out of this run, they did not make their money back.
I would agree with
That's
that.
a lot of, and it is expensive. Like getting something from, because here's the thing, if you compare it to something like Piety and Pain, or like those 2-player box sets with a hero, like the hero is the new thing. Everything else is just a repackage.
Hmm.
Everything in Cursed City is new, which means it had to be created for this game. Concept art, design, you had to make, and the expensive part, you got to make the model, you got to make the sprue, you got to make
Tooling, yeah,
all that stuff. And on top of that, you got to make the cardboard, you got to make the cards, you got to make the custom dice. Games Workshop doesn't make its own dice. The debacles we had with limited dice are proof of that. Like, they don't make their own dice, so you got to outsource that, right? So that's
yeah.
expensive. That's a lot of resources pulled, and if this is all you're selling on this
And
first run, that's not enough.
yeah, it would, if they're breaking even, they're not breaking even by the margin that they could have done, and they had enough of this. The thing about it, the reason that tweet is so concerning is it suggests that something behind the scenes happened that was really bad, and they did not want to promise that they could do a made to order of this or something equivalent anytime soon, particularly considering that the summer release is on the way, whatever it turns out to be. And almost certainly they're going to prioritize getting boxes of those prepared and filling the warehouses and not having this happen. um, I would imagine this 2 week break was definitely influenced by what happened with Cursed City.
Now, with that said, it's very possible for something to happen. Like, maybe they once again they had an issue with the dice manufacturer, and you have all like thousands of Cursed City boxes with no dice, right?
Right.
No way to fill that. Well, you can't sell those because people are gonna be like, "What the hell? Where's my dice?" So it's very possible. It's very possible that the card company who makes the cards or the cardboard is has some issues, especially because they're usually outsourced.
Yeah.
Sometimes from China or something, right? And they can't produce those on time. Well, you can't sell those. Like, the models could all. I remember the only thing produced on site are the books and the models. Everything else is
Yeah.
Games Workshop does not make on in house.
this box is weirdly complicated in terms of the actual components, which is, I think, one of the big reasons why, first of all, there weren't enough of them, and also why they would be willing to take this PR dive. I would imagine, at the very least, the miniatures will become available to some degree because that they can control. The thing that's interesting about this, and we really won't know for sure in the next few until the next few months, expansions for this game almost certainly are ready to go. They had to have made some of those in advance. How are those going to come out?
Yeah, you're right. Because I think if you look at the instructions, if you really read through like the copyright crap, like this box should have been released like November of last year, which
Correct.
coincides with every other Warhammer Crest release being November of that year.
Yep, all of the stuff in there says this is current as of November 2020.
Yep. So that's a massive delay. You know.
Yeah, that's a big delay. Maybe not a big enough delay as it happens. How do you feel about this, Matt?
Well, I mean, doing research, I mean, because I looked into their Facebook posts as well, so I mean, it's like John said, there's obviously people not talking to each other on the social media end. It's just weird how, let's say, the Warhammer community site, usually keeps everyone pretty well informed, but we got two contradicting sources, so I feel like they just need to work on the communication and be a little bit more straightforward on what the answer is. Obviously, right? We all know that this game was going to come back in stock, and that this thing, the Twitter post here is obviously is wrong, because no one would put a specialist game out there with expansions most likely on the way and only put it out for one release, right?
It seems unthinkable that that would happen.
Again, worst case scenario is the dice manufacturer decided to stop making dice because they started making some like fish bowls for like way more profit or something, and then there's no more dice, and then no more Cursed City, and then we just have the models. It's very possible that could happen because again, it is not in house.
There are any number of components in this that could have failed to launch, and they would have been effed. They would not be able to release the box. Like, it could have also been that they had to withhold stock for any number of reasons. Though Matt does make a good point of like Warhammer community, and the Facebook pages probably weren't in close enough communication on the realities of how much this could come out. I mean, basically, Games Workshop made a hot product and they marketed it really, really aggressively and really well, and then there were no more.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, my final thought is, they just need to get the communication straight, and they should probably take this fire out by making just a post on the main website that everyone can go to and they can just link to about the situation, kind of thing, right?
See, I've wondered about that because I do think like I see merits in doing that and not doing that. By doing that, they could, basically say they could try to explain the situation, but bad news is still bad news, right? Like, I feel like people would still be mad, maybe differently mad, because then like if it's revealed like, oh, the dice manufacturer, you know, dropped the dice block and all of this Cursed City dice died, then people will be like, Games Workshop so unprofessional. If it's something like, we found out that there were Black Widow spiders hosting nests in half of the product stock, and that's why we didn't send them to you because we don't want you to die from Black Widow venom. Then people will be like, well, how come that spider is the one in the box? Like, I don't think they can win no matter what they say.
Well, I mean, GW is a big company anyway, so they're gonna lose regardless of whatever they do. And I'm just saying that they just need to have the communication straightened out here.
For next time, for sure.
So like, it's like, obviously it's gonna come back in the stock. But if this was just like a one-time thing, should make that clear that it's gonna be a one-time kind of deal, right?
Yeah, like
Obviously, since they never said it.
Models.
Obviously, since they never said it, I assumed it was gonna come back whenever they decided to restock it.
Yeah. If this was a one-time release, it's baffling. It's more baffling than anything Games Workshop has done in the last 3 years, probably. There are other baffling things along the way, like the 30th anniversary Intercessor Sergeant.
Yes,
But
true.
let us never speak of his name.
We just
again. We just did, and I invoked him.
No, the only thing limited specialist games wise that I can recall is the Space Hulk thing
Yes.
they did.
Yes,
That's the only thing I can recall that they've ever done with a
and
limited release.
there hasn't been a reissue of that in a while, actually. Not in the last 4 years, at the very least, which is kind of a long time for the Space Hulk reissues to not be around. Those Blood Angel Terminators are, it's like getting like a Fabergé egg. Those are super hard to find, and very much sought after. I don't know maybe they should do something with Space Hulk.
Nah, they don't need to do anything. They can leave that. They can leave that alone.
Not- yeah,
But yeah, I thought I'd just bring up this news because, like I said, it's been circling around the internet at least this morning and yesterday.
It has been a hot topic, particularly since that tweet was posted. It's I also I'm totally am aware that I'm sitting in a place of safety here because I did get a box, regardless of how I got it. Like I got one, so I get to be I'm more likely to be in a camp that's just like happy that I got my thing. Uh, but I can definitely be sympathetic of how much it sucks for people who are like you, Matt. Like, oh, I didn't get it today. I'll wait till it comes back and then I'll get it then. That is a completely reasonable conclusion to come to.
Well, I mean, because I want to play
And
it, but it's not the oh man, I better have this thing now because I'm gonna play it right away. And it's not gonna happen like that. It would be nice to have it though. So when I do get it all built and painted, I can play it. But I'm more of a 40K
what
guy.
I'm curious now, Matt, I
Okay.
must ask, what sort of product would cause you to like do that for Warhammer? What thing could they make that would make you like show up, an hour early to the store, or
Can I
like
guess?
I would like you to guess because I want to hear from Matt too.
Silent King Vect.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna joke. Asdrabale Vect with like a $50 gift card to Drukari things near you, like something just unbelievable. But also it would be like that's almost suggesting it'd be like a limited edition Vect, which would be so sweet. What would it take, Matt, for you to, you know, get on your bicycle and go over to your local Warhammer establishment and like pitch a tent?
Pitch a tent.
Terrible. Edit that out.
Nah, I think I'll leave that in. Really nothing. I mean, there's nothing that would make me camp outside. If anything, I mean, usually if it's like a centerpiece model, I can recall Marathi. I did that. Got her.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh, Silent King. Yeah, no, wait, yeah, Silent King. I got Silent King. I think the next model would be, unless there's some crazy looking model that comes out soon. Uh, Probably would be the Avatar Kane would be the next model. Yeah,
Oh my god.
assuming they remake it, so I don't have to use my old
Well,
metal model.
You know it's gonna happen.
What?
You know it's gonna happen.
I hope so.
No, it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
The Silent King has a model.
Yeah,
You know,
I think I would bet.
Human has a model.
I would bet a kidney that'll happen. I don't know when that could happen, but I think in the next 5 years.
The next 2 years, it's gonna happen. I would say. I'm so confident that we will get a new Avatar soon.
I mean, Craft Worlds needs the Necron treatment just as badly, if not more, than the Necrons needed it. Because Craft Worlds has models that are still being sold that are older than all Necron models.
Yeah, yeah, that's unfortunately true. But yeah, I mean, if I was, it would have to be something like to that scale, where I would get to my local Warhammer early enough before they opened to grab it just because I want to build it, play it on the table, and see how it goes. But yeah, this is like a Curse City. I want it. I'm not gonna wake up early enough to probably go get it. Because I mean, by the time I got to my local Warhammer store, which was like 10:15, so I was like 15 minutes late before they opened. There's like 8 people outside.
That's crazy.
There was only 2 people allowed inside, so that means there's 10 people already out in the GW store. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that is nuts. I mean, I definitely like I because of just like being burned in the past, like I sort of I had the paranoia paid off for me of like I need to come early enough that like I will be the first person in line, and I was not the first person in line by any stretch. But it was you shouldn't have to make that decision. Like you should never have to do that for something you're excited about. Um, at the same time, like because these are physical products, the realities of doing that, particularly right now during quarantine and during the pandemic, like, and Suez Canal and all this other stuff that's been happening in the world.
It happened. That's right.
Going back to the first thing we talked about today about like the 2 week delay of like pre-orders. Um, yeah, it must be a challenging time for them. And I would rather get the models eventually than not get them at all.
well, I mean, it's like you said earlier in this video. Warhammer is more popular than it is now thanks to the pandemic.
Hmm.
So a lot of stuff that you think would never be getting sold out are just selling out instantly. I mean, look at the recent stuff. I mean, honestly, I didn't expect Bellacore to sell out. I didn't even know Bellacore sold out
Same. Yep. I was
because
surprised.
I
Yeah, it's
didn't
pretty shocking.
I didn't have any interest in getting him, but because I don't have a Chaos Army really. But I mean, I'm shocked he was even sold out. I'm pretty sure a lot of the big models when they first came out were never sold out.
Nope.
Like Marathi, and
Yeah.
that's the only one that comes to mind right now.
Mortarian was sold out for 2 weeks, but he came back pretty quick. But again, like when things like I don't know how long it'll take for them to get Bellacore back into stock. Probably more than 2 weeks because it's not just an issue of like they probably just have the foundry just waiting to crank out more Bellacores. Um, it's probably going to be a while until more of him come out.
Yeah, which is fine because, like we said earlier as well, I mean, he doesn't really have any rules, and the only rules he's gonna get for AOS is from the Broken Realms, right?
Right. That book I'm super excited for, and that is actually something I'm gonna have to get in line for.
I
Which
followed myself, so I'm good. Don't need the
yeah,
fall line for that.
I like having them. But I
Yeah,
mean,
they're good.
I read the last two, so like that stuff like those books are killing it. It's sort of unrelated, but like Broken Realms is everything that Psychic Awakening was not.
Yeah, Psychic Awakening was pretty underwhelming, at least from the first 2 books I read. So
They all work because nothing happened.
it's just a
Nothing.
bunch of setup.
Yep. I mean, like Broken Realms tech list, Nagash dies. You know.
Yeah, but how many times have you told me he's died now?
Right, right. But the thing is, like, well, he's not doing anything in the lore at the moment. Same with Arkan, right? I mean, yeah, he'll probably come back, but stuff like that, where like you will see story implications.
We
But
already
pretty
we
much,
saw it in the third book in Broken Realms Bellacore. If you've already looked at the spoilers, John, I mean, like the undead are like leaderless now,
yeah,
which is kind of interesting, and it paves the way for something like Soulblight because like now that Nagash and particularly Archon are out of the picture, like who's in charge? The vampires perhaps they will all like to be in charge. Manfred and Neferata, they don't typically go to dinner parties together.
Nope.
So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Cursed City, hopefully come back someday.
Hopefully.
But let's just try to have this not happen again, Games Workshop.
It's gonna happen again.
Just better communication. That's all it
Most
needs to
likely.
be.
You know why it's gonna happen again? Is my last comment is once Cursed City comes back, people will forget and not buy it.
I mean,
That would be
they
funny.
burned themselves a little bit on that, but I think it'll still be popular enough. People
I
will
wonder
buy
if
it.
anyone will actually leave the hobby like they're saying.
No.
Just
This
can't
Over
imagine.
a specialist game, I doubt it.
in terms of PR fires that Games Workshop does, like in this day and age, like I actually genuinely don't think this matters in the grand scheme of things. I mean, it does for us because we pay attention, but like the majority of people don't. It's not going to matter. I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree with John on this. Majority of people really well, I'm not gonna say don't care. A lot of people care, but in terms of people leaving the hobby over this, no, I don't think anyone's gonna leave a hobby over a specialist game or a board game in particular. Because I mean they have all their armies. This isn't gonna add anything to their army unless they're vampire counts. But even then, it's still a small amount.
Yeah, this is a terrible. Somebody in the mat. This is a terrible start collecting for vampires. The stuff
Yeah.
is just really bad.
Super bad.
Great models, but you should get this game for the game, or the models. If you should get them, you should get this box if you like everything in it. It's really bad for start collecting vampires.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's definitely not suited for that. It is not a starter set. And I think that even more drives home that like this is very much a thing that is, it is a self-contained box. It is a specialist product. It is not a starter set. Like it is not like a new edition box. Because the thing they have to absolutely get right is if AOS 3.0 does happen this year, which Broken Realms is definitely suggesting that it will, like that has to work. Like that can't go like this. And I think they're probably taking extra steps to make sure that doesn't happen.
We can only hope. Hope for the best in the future of the hobby. But after that, I think we can start wrapping this up and start going to the hobby rant section. So, I know I already asked this, but how was your hobby week? This hobby gaming this week? Go with John.
Actually, we didn't do much. I didn't do much. I was busy, super busy last week with life stuff. But I did get to. I finished the skeletons, minus the basing because I'm finalizing the basing for that. But I finished all 10 skeletons for Cursed City, and painting the zombies right now. And like, holy crap, there's a lot of detail in the zombies that I wish weren't there. But I'm glad. I hope the full kit does not have this many details on the zombies, because like, holy crap, there's a lot. Like this zombie has like flowers and a rat, and like a bird and grass, and it's like, oh, there's more details on these zombies than like my entire Empire army for Star Wars.
It's funny how that happens with as Games Workshop models get better, the reality of having a horde type army or even a very large unit of something becomes more and more terrifying and less reasonable. Like
Yeah.
Gene Stealer cults is still my go-to for that, of just like, dear God in heaven, how are you going to paint this? And like that contrast helps. Xanathal highlighting, airbrushing, I'm sure all of that helps. But those guys have got belts and lights and gears and switches and stuff everywhere. Yeah, I do not envy John painting all of these gravestones and flowers and lilies and bats and stickers and just various zombie things. But the
Yeah.
models, and that's an interesting question actually. I wonder maybe that'd be a future discussion of like, well, where is it too much? Like, because it sounds like you're enjoying painting the zombies, right?
Oh yeah, I'm having a good time because there's 5 of them, right? That's why I'm saying like when the full kit comes, when I have to paint 20 for my Soul Blight, like I hope they're not this.
Or at least you can leave bits off.
Yes.
How about you, Will? How was your week?
Also didn't get to do very much gaming just because it was a busy week and schedules didn't really allow for that to happen. The thing I have been working on is some of the bigger stuff in Cursed City. So I just wrapped up the Vargskir, which is the large, monstrous vampire werewolf kind of critter. That's a really cool model, and thankfully was a pretty easy thing to start with because it's a lot of flesh and a lot of fluff. Fur exists, so does dry brushing, so does contrast paint. There's lots to like about it. And then I'm almost wrapped with the Korsagi Night Guard, who are like the undead ogre monsters. Those are really cool. I mean, I'm really, not to beat the horse into undeath, but like Cursed City is definitely on my brain right now. I've been reading the novel. I've been learning the rules,
How was
and
the novel?
the novel is interesting. C.L. Werner is not my favorite Black Library novelist. Some of the choices in the novel, like there's two major viewpoint characters. Like you have one of the characters from the box, the the female swordswoman, who like people call her like Brienne of Tarth. Like Braskov is her name, and she's kind of like the last hope for the Cursed City. Like she's like the last remaining member of a noble house that like could theoretically, get things back on track. And then the other side of the perspective is like Radukar and like his vampires. It's an interesting novel, and it like is pretty competent, but it's very also obviously a lead up to whatever's going to happen at the end of the board game. Like Radukar is not going to die in that book. The playable character from Cursed City is not going to die in the novel before the game comes out. No, but it's been an enjoyable read to do, a couple like 30-40 pages a day. Um, but that book, by the way, speaking of things that you may actually never get, Cursed City aside, that hardback book is like $125 on eBay. Did you know that?
I did not. No.
That's even crazier than Cursed City aftermarket to me. Like the hardback version of the Cursed City novel has a card in there for a character from the novel. It's basically an Empire battle mage who's, you can play him in the game if you get the book because the card only comes in there. It was like a $20 hardback book, and it's like, again, hundreds of dollars on the internet. Totally, totally a disaster because that's something that's very unlikely to be reprinted.
Now, is this the like highly detailed, like kind of looks like a special edition one, or is this just the normal book?
The special edition one's like $500. The normal hardback book I've seen going for like $90.
Yeah, I'll just stick to audiobooks.
Madness. Yeah. The audiobook is apparently very good. I have the ebook because I did not get the hardback. That there was like no chance of getting that.
Hmm.
What are you working on, Matt?
Unfortunately, I haven't been working on anything. Mainly just as COVID restrictions are loosening up over here. Uh, the media section of my job, that's not YouTube, uh, is starting to go into full swing. So I've been doing a lot of like stage preparation and camera setup and figuring out how everything is gonna work. So I've kind of been just busy with life, unfortunately.
It's kind of cool to go back to actual productions happening, though. Sounds like.
Yeah, I mean this is like for a church kind of thing, but it's a lot of work because they had no plan. So they kind of like, yeah, we're gonna open up this day. So we need a plan on what everything's gonna look like. I'm like, oh, I got like 2 weeks to get everything set up.
Got to call the boom mic guy.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to do any hobbying. I just make a lot of Drukari lists because that's what my free time gives me.
Making lists is always good fun. It's sort of a fun what if exercise every time you do it.
Yeah. But hopefully, I mean it's gonna sound like a while, but hopefully in about 3 weeks I'll be normal again.
And may many more models be painted and many more dice be thrown and many more fictional miniatures die in simulated warfare.
Yeah, well, the podcast will still be around, so I'll always have time for that as my dedicated section for Monday night.
Very true.
But yeah, so hopefully I'll be getting a game in soon, but we'll see. 3 weeks is kind of far away. But I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Tonight, I guess.
Yeah.
And if you guys got any other final words, we'll close it off.
Just for the record, I was getting hyped about Kill Team today because of some modeling opportunities. I read the rules, and within 10 minutes, my hype just died.
I'm surprised Kill Team even got you hyped, given how much you and I crap on it.
Just the modeling opportunities for building a squad. Like I was kind of hyped of like a Death Watch kill team or like a Black Legion kill team. I mean, I'm
Totally
still gonna work on the
understandable.
Black Legion one because it's my 40k army, but it's like, man, like the rules are so bad.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I like the premise of that game. The actual sitting down, learning the rules, rolling dice, and referencing rules of it. That part is not so appealing.
Yeah. I mean, I find it pretty simple, but it's very boring to just have. I mean, you can sum this up as normal 40k, but at least with 40k, it's a bigger map size. But it's just, I'm hiding behind a wall, I shoot you. All right, now you shoot me. Nothing really happened because we have great armor saves, kind of deal.
Yeah, that's also a problem. But thankfully, I would expect they will be revisiting Kill Team in the next few years or so because there was a time where it was extremely popular. I mean, Kill Team Pariah Nexus just came out, so
What do you
maybe
think
that
with
actually
that?
is. Well, I mean, I own that and have yet to actually remove it from the closet of
I mean,
shame.
it's great if you play Space Marines. That's kind of it.
Yeah,
Well, I was gonna say with Pariah Nexus, you think with that they would be updating the. They would have updated the Kill Team rules, but
that I just got for the terrain and the boards primarily because that was the stuff that has universal application. The fact that there were Space Marines in there was a nice bonus.
well then, I think on that note we'll call it there, shall we?
Yeah.
Thanks to you for everyone for hanging out with us, and until next time,
Later, everyone.
goodbye.
Post hot takes about Maloghurst.